So as Nontuk became very weary, as his face became sore and red from being slapped, and his bald head was full of sores from all of the hairs being pulled out of his head and the bald sores being slapped by the Devas, he then thought he would go up to see Persecuted on Mount Grailat, and so he climbed up the stairs of heaven, past the celestial palaces and the other Devas, and performed Busha and Tun Phao, attended and begged Persecuted, and he was crying and weeping and moaned that Persecuted had never ever given him even a single blessing ever. Persecuted then said, "If I give you a blessing, you must promise not to seek any kind of vengeance or act out of anger or sadness through your misery." And so Nontuk bent down and promised and pleaded that he would like to have a diamond finger, and that wherever he would point it, or whoever he could point it at, would be instantly annihilated and die. Persecuted thus gave him this blessing of the diamond finger and bestowed it upon Nontuk. And so Nontuk then returned back to the lake at the foot of Mount Grailat and sat there in meditation with a smile on his face. And the Devas came to have their feet washed as usual and began to make fun of him, just as they did every day, slapping his head and pulling their hairs out and slapping his face and flicking his ears. But this particular day Nontuk was very angry, and he could not stand it anymore. And this day Nontuk then rose his diamond finger into the air and pointed it at the Devas who were making fun of him, and annihilated all of them in one burst of flame that emitted from his diamond finger. And so many of the Devas were killed instantly. Prain, the god Indra, saw this happening and went to inform Persecuted and told him about Nontuk pointing his diamond finger and killing all of the Devas around the heavens and terrifying all of the celestial inhabitants of that realm. And so Persecuted then commanded Pratnarai, Vishnu Avatan, to annihilate Nontuk, however, in whichever way possible. Pratnarai then transformed himself into an Apsara Deva, a celestial nymph, and went to wait for Nontuk in the path which Nontuk would have to travel along on his way. When Nontuk saw the celestial Apsara nymph, he walked over and began to flirt with her. And she said she was a dancing nymph, and that she would only fall in love with whoever could dance as well with her as she could with them. And so Nontuk promised that he would perform the dance and not miss a single step, taking the Apsara maiden and her lead. And so Pratnarai, disguised as the Apsara maiden, began to perform various postures of the dance until he came to a posture which was known as the Nag Mohan Hang, the Naga coiling his tail. And in this particular position, one must point towards one's leg. And so Nontuk pointed with his diamond finger over his leg and amputated it with the beam of light which emitted from his diamond finger and fell to the floor. Pratnarai then transformed back from the Apsara maiden into his traditional form of godliness and stood upon Nontuk's chest and held him down to the ground. Nontuk cried out and said, "Oh, what trickery! If it were not for the trickery and that you were the god Vishnu, you would not have tricked or beaten me." But Vishnu, Narai, Avatar, looked down upon Nontuk and said, "In that case, I shall cut off your head, and you shall be reborn as a demon with 10 heads and even 20 arms, and I will be born as a mere man with a bow and an arrow, and I shall still kill you and conquer you as the demon Totsagan, and I shall be born as Prince Rama, Param." And then Pratnarai, Vishnu Avatar, sliced off Nontuk's head and sent him to be reborn on earth as Totsagan.